Welcome back to the weekly study. I'm glad that you're joining me today. We are in the midst of chapter 27 of Genesis. If you'll recall from last time, we began chapter 27. This is the chapter that we said we've been waiting for. The moment we know that Jacob and Rebekah, through their kind of conniving or trickery perhaps, help or make Isaac, offer Jacob the blessing as the birthright blessing. And so we started off last week looking at the first two scenes of that story. The first in which Isaac calls out to Esau to ask him to prepare food in order for the kind of transaction and transfer of that blessing to occur. Rebekah then, hearing that invitation, hearing that call out to Esau, quickly tells Jacob to follow a specific plan so that they and Jacob can receive Isaac's blessing instead of Esau. This week is the third scene of that story. It's really the continuation of the second scene. We heard about what Rebekah said for Isaac to do. Today we'll hear about Isaac's response to Rebekah, his concerns about what might happen, and Rebekah kind of assuring him to continue in the path. And then we move on to the third scene of the story, which is the exchange and the conversation between Isaac and Jacob. I pause for a moment because it is Isaac and Jacob, but it's really between Isaac and who he believes to be is Esau. Or is it? We'll think about it as we go through, but this is probably the most dramatic part of the story, where Isaac wonders who the son is in front of him, believes, I guess, that it's Esau, and offers Jacob, who he thinks is Esau, the birthright blessing. So the question that I want to ask you today to think about in terms of how we connect to this story personally is, have you ever perhaps tricked someone or offered a white lie in order to get something that you knew was right? Perhaps it was when you were a child and knew that your parents wouldn't give you something that you really needed. But I also think at a deeper level, there are ways in which not necessarily we lie, but we kind of strategize in order to make sure that we receive what we actually need. And so I think that's what's happening here in this story as well. So I'll ask you to think about that for a moment, and think about that throughout as we read through these verses together, and then offer some commentary and reflections as well. Jacob answered his mother Rebekah, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am smooth-skinned. If my father touches me, I shall appear to him as a trickster, and bring upon myself a curse, not a blessing." But his mother said to him, "Your curse, my son, be upon me. Just do as I say, and go fetch them for me." He got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared a dish such as his father liked. Rebekah then took the best clothes of her older son Esau, which were there in the house, and had her younger son Jacob put them on. And she covered his hands and the hairless part of his neck with the skins of the kids. Then she put in the hands of her son Jacob the dish and the bread that she had prepared. He went to his father and said, "Father." And he said, "Yes, which of my sons are you?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Pray sit up and eat of my game, that you may give me your innermost blessing." Isaac said to his son, "How did you succeed so quickly, my son?" And he said, "Because the Lord your God granted me good fortune." Isaac said to Jacob, "Come closer, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob drew close to his father Isaac, who felt him and wondered. The voice is the voice of Jacob, yet the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, and so he blessed him. So Jacob is rightfully concerned about Rebekah's plot. He's worried. Maybe his dad is going to find out that it's not actually him, that it's his brother Esau. In fact, as he points out to Rebekah, we are physically very different people. Esau is kind of a hairy man, and Jacob is smooth-skinned. How will he be able to present himself in a way that's going to allow his father to think that he's really Esau? As we saw in verse 12, I'll just read it again for you, what Jacob's reasoning is. If my father touches me, I shall appear to him as a trickster and bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. Jacob says, I shall appear to him, to Isaac, as a trickster. Not that I myself am a trickster, but that Isaac will see me, my father will see me as a trickster. I think that expression is so accurate in the way that we think about how we interact with other people. It's not often about when we've come to a certain conviction about ourselves, it's not about necessarily worrying about what we think about it when we've already resolved what we're going to do, but it's about how are others going to view me? Will they see me as a trickster even though I'm not really a trickster? I think that's probably when I asked that beginning question, have there been times in your life where you've maneuvered or offered a white lie or somehow lied in order to get what you know is really yours? I think in those moments, and when I'm thinking for myself in my own life, it's not that I necessarily am worried about what I have said or what I have done, but how others, the people that I'm interacting, are going to view me. Rebekah answers, his mother said to him, your curse, my son, will be upon me. A very motherly response, which I imagine each of us have probably offered if we are mothers or fathers to our children, or we probably heard from our parents as well. Don't worry, my child. I'll take care of it. It's going to be my fault. Though we know it's also going to have serious ramifications on Jacob as well. This how would you call it? These actions are going to completely change the dynamic of the entire family. So even though Rebekah says the curse is going to be upon me of whatever might happen, it's also going to be on everyone. But it's a motherly, apparently, response to say, I'm going to take care of it, don't worry. So Jacob accedes and goes and gets the food, and Rebekah prepares it. She then takes the best clothes of her older son, Esau, which are in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. I think the verses here are highlighting the fact that, right, it could have just said that Rebekah takes the clothes of Esau and puts them on Jacob, but it says Rebekah takes the best clothes of her older son, Esau, and puts it on her younger son, Jacob. Why add those older and younger when we clearly already know that? I think, one, just to heighten the drama of the sense that she's really making the younger one the older one. But I think also at a deeper level is that, yes, Esau is the older son and Jacob is the younger son. But from our perspective, and what we've already shared now last week as well, is that Jacob is the true heir. Yes, he may not be the oldest son, the older son, but he is the one who is going to be the spiritual heir. He is the one who's going to be able to really carry out Isaac and Rebekah's legacy, which was originally Abraham's legacy and not Esau. So in a certain sense, while Jacob is the younger, he really still is. He is the heir. He is the one who is going to receive those blessings and carry on the tradition. So Rebekah covers Jacob's hands and the hairless part of his neck and with the skins of the kids. The kids here meaning the baby goats that she prepares. There's something really evocative or moving that not only is it the food that with the goats that are going to function and serve as a part of this exchange, but also the skin of those goats too are going on Jacob's hands and the smooth of his neck. It's like those clothing, the food is cloaking him, is disguising him, and then presents him as a different person. Jacob makes his way to Isaac, Um, and he says, "Father, I'm here." And Isaac says, "Yes, which of my sons are you?" What? What kind of question is that? It's it seems to point out to the fact that Isaac is, I don't know, it seems like pretty lost. He wouldn't know which one of his sons are which. Okay, sure, his eyesight is diminished, but his hearing is okay. You would imagine he would hear the difference between two of his sons, or know the difference. Um, I think what it's pointing out here is not just that Isaac doesn't recognize the voice of his sons, but he doesn't really even know his sons at a deeper level. He doesn't really know their natures. He doesn't really understand who is the one that should receive the blessing, that it's really Jacob that should receive this blessing and not Esau. Jacob then says, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I've done what you've said. Here's the food, and I would love your blessing." And Isaac thinks, how did you get back and forth so quickly? I had sent Esau out to go hunt. It seems like you've done this pretty quickly. And Jacob responds in what is probably it's kind of like he's caught a deer in the headlights. He responds with the way that he would respond, not how Esau would respond, who he's supposed to be impersonating, but how Jacob would respond. He said, "Because the Lord your God granted me good fortune." Right? Esau never uses God language throughout Scripture. So that's going to tip off Isaac to say, wait, the Lord your God granted me good fortune? So Isaac says to Jacob, "Come closer, that I'm going to feel you," right? To see whether you're Esau or not. The way that you responded made me think that, maybe you're not actually Esau. I guess what that also makes us think is that Isaac, in some ways, is he aware that this is going to happen? There's going to be some type of trickery, some type of something's going to go awry, something's not going to be exactly according to the way that he's thinking about it. Is he a worried person in which he's kind of just always looking out? And then he offers the kind of, I would say, one of the more famous lines of the entire story. He says, your voice is the voice of Jacob, but your hands are the hands of Esau. I recognize that it's your voice, that's Jacob's voice, but when I feel you, it's Esau. And Isaac follows what he feels and not what he hears. Again, we're back to the senses again. We talked about that last week, but the senses coming up so strongly. And that Isaac is duped by his own senses. If he followed his voice, he would have known that it's Jacob. All right, we're going to pause here. We'll continue next week with the story. We'll continue with Jacob's blessing, and then probably even hearing about Esau's reaction as well. So I'm glad that you joined me today. I hope you enjoyed our study. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week.